of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Every Wednesday, we have the privilege and the opportunity to come before you to share really great information about money, life, and everything else. We say on this show that money encompasses everything. So that's why tonight, the topic that we have tonight, we feel like it's a great topic. It's a topic that's going to have you thinking, but we want you to participate. So please tag, share, make a comment, let your friends know that we are on live tonight. And also, make a comment because we want to hear your thoughts about this very topic of forgiveness. So tonight's topic is forgiveness matters. Now we know that this is what our Women History Month celebration. We are continuing with that, and we wanted to have this poignant conversation because we know everybody struggles with forgiveness. Everybody, including women, because forgiveness is such a powerful tool. It's a simple word. But at the end of the day, if you do it right, if you learn to cultivate that in your life, it could have definitely exponential, and I say compound effects for you, your health, your money, as well as your legacy. And to me, that's very important because many times we have families who are suffering from mistakes or from anger, from rage, from things that they haven't forgiven going back 2-3 generations. So tonight, we're going to have this discussion with some of our friends. We have a couple of friends on the show tonight, and we want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. But we're going to dive in so that you will have something not only to think about, but also to talk to your friends about, because we do believe, again, learning how to forgive is the gateway to unforeseeable blessings. So keeping records of wrongs, it's not the way to go. So without further ado, I would like to welcome my friends. We have Anna and Gabrielle on the line tonight. So why don't we say hello to you, Anna, and then Gabrielle can say hello, introduce yourself. Why are you here tonight? And then, we'll dive into this conversation of why forgiveness matters.
Yes, hello, hi, great to be here. Thank you, Gabrielle. I'm Anna DePina. I am a full-time MBA student. I left a career in education, and I'm currently pursuing a career in financial advising. I'm helping people with their finances. And I am here because it's an interesting topic, and I'm a work in progress, and I'm trying the best I can, to walk in forgiveness. It's not easy at all, but you know what? We can only do what we can and try our best.
Yeah, and you're here too because of your smile, that laughter. I was talking to you today and I was like, come on the show, because of the fact that we want to have that joy, especially for a topic like forgiveness. Gabrielle, how are you doing today?
Hi, yes, I'm great. My name is Gabrielle, and I'm a mother, and I was once a high school science teacher, and now I am a screenwriter. And I love this topic because I think wealth it's a whole mindset. You have to develop a mindset of love and forgiveness and bounty and prosperity, and that really helps with so it makes sense that we would talk about forgiveness on Let's Talk Money with Friends.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, because we say on this show we promote holistic and a holistic approach to financial freedom, financial health. Because how can you really free yourself? Like as I was saying earlier, that it's detrimental if you haven't learned to forgive. It's going to be detrimental to your health, finances. You're talking about your spirit. If your spirit is not high, and if you're not someone who's willing to receive, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. But why is it important? So we'll start with a question. Why is it important? Why is it an important topic for this show? And what does forgiveness look like?
Okay.
Anna.
Okay. For me, it's just about if you want to have a healthy life, it encompasses many things. I believe, you need to be well financially, spiritually, socially, all of that. And of course, we all have relationships. We all have things that don't always go the way we want them to go, whether they're finances or friendships, whatever. So we really need to always say, okay, know the situation, know the person, know ourselves, and be able to grow and, you know, become mature people and have healthy relationships all around.
Do you feel like not holding grudges is liberating and gives you an opportunity to maximize your potential, Gabrielle?
Oh, yes, definitely. I've had family members that I thought were harmful to me, and I've had work situations that I thought were harmful. And I moved away from them, and I'm like, life is too short. It will make me sick to focus on this. I want to focus on all the goodness and my career as a screenwriter and my friends and family that I love. And I don't want to focus on those other things.
Yeah, because a lack of forgiveness will definitely hold you back in so many ways. Many times it's not something that, it's not because you don't have enough education, or it's not because you don't look the part, just because you're harboring so much pain or hurt that you cannot free yourself to even look at the opportunities that are all around you. Because we have this, so let me just ask, I have been sharing, I've been talking to my sisters and been talking to friends about this scripture, right? Everybody knows I'm a believer and I do believe in the word of God. And it's in Matthew, right? Matthew 18, it talks about how important it is to forgive, but not one time, 77 times, right? Because Peter went to Jesus and said, how many times? Should it be just 7 times? He's like, no, 77 times. So, and then Martin Luther King Jr. said that forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a constant attitude. What does that mean? Should you keep forgiving the same people or same situation? And is that what this scripture, or even MLK, is that what he's saying? Like, it's constant, is not occasional? What does that mean for somebody who's struggling with forgiving perhaps the same person? Go ahead, Gabrielle.
Okay, yeah, well, we have thousands and thousands of thoughts every day. So we might forgive 1 minute and be angry the next minute. It's like a constant, it's kind of like our minds are wild horses going, jumping here and jumping there everywhere. And we have to sort of calm our minds down and refocus it. And if we see ourselves going down a road that's like an angry road, no, that's not where we want to go. Come on, let's go back over here. And it's a constant, it's like a training. You have to train yourself.
Yeah. So it's a constant attitude, not necessarily towards the same people, right, Ada? Like someone.
Yeah, I think it's boundaries. I think every relationship needs healthy boundaries. Correct. And also not using forgiveness. So I knew a lot of people in seminary and people that were pastors, and I felt like they were abusing their positions. And for me, I'm like, okay, you might have a role or a license to preach or whatever, but you don't have a license to abuse people. So you really have to know that, someone can forgive you because maybe you didn't know you hurt somebody. This happens all the time, right? Someone cuts you off in traffic or whatever. Like, there's plenty of opportunities to forgive throughout the day, right? But then if someone, as I was mentioning to you all earlier, a theologian named Bonhoeffer, he really talked about it, not operating in cheap grace, you know what I mean? Like, forgiveness means someone is repentant. They've noticed, hey, what I'm doing is hurtful. Correct. So I need to stop. And if I've hurt you or harmed you, then I need to restore you. Like there's it's not just, oh, I'm just going to forgive you and blah, blah, blah. But there's actual acknowledgement, like, I've hurt you, I'm sorry. Those things are important. Now, you may never get that.
I know.
Never, ever acknowledge, what I did to you was wrong. And sometimes you even have to give them without that apology, not because they've, rectified the situation, but because for your own sanity and for your own sense of wellness, that you need to say, okay, that person can't even see their harm, which is not good because they're probably a toxic type person. But the fact that you see it and you acknowledge it, now you have boundaries or healthy boundaries, saying, this is not how you're going to treat me. Like, I need to be treated a certain way. And I think it was Oprah or someone who said, you teach people how to treat you.
Okay. Yeah.
So if it's like, someone's constantly, and you mention it, you address them and they really don't care, then you realize, okay, there's only so far I can go with this person. And, you can still maintain a friendship, but it might not be a healthy friendship because they're not, it's not a give and take type relationship.
Yeah, I think of the fact that I always say that God saves us from our sins, not our senses. We should use common sense. Just because the Bible, especially for believers, they have a hard time with that, where it says 77 times. You don't keep on going back to the same person who's abusing you to keep getting more of the same, because Gabriel, the forgiveness, you have to learn how to treat yourself right first. Like I said, teaching people how to treat you, but you have to learn how to take care of yourself, right? Protect yourself so that other people can treat you right, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we can forgive people, but there are some people we need to avoid because they upset us or they hurt us, or they just, so it's okay to stay away, and we have to take care of ourselves, and that means sometimes, like you said, Anna, boundaries, and we also have to learn to forgive ourselves, like Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself.
Correct.
If you hate yourself, how are you going to love your neighbor? So I think people also have a lot of internalized guilt. They don't usually admit it, but oftentimes they do.
Yeah.
Or
Be merciful towards other people. I think the idea of forgiveness comes easier too when you too have been forgiven and you are able to extend that grace. Because going back again to that scripture, it talks about the parable of the unmerciful servant, where this servant was his debt of over 10,000 bags of gold was forgiven, right? And he walked away saying like, oh, thank God, I begged for forgiveness and I was able to get my 10,000 bags of gold forgiven, a debt that I owed, but now I no longer have to worry about that debt. And then he turned around just down the street, another person who owed him it says here 100 bags of silver. So much less. It's almost like 10,000 versus $100. And then he was like not forgiven towards him, to the point where the master called him, you wicked servant. Now, earlier today, because it's been on the news, this idea of the bank failed, the bank that the Silicon banks, several of them who have had issues this week, and the government had to come in and help them. And I was immediately reminded of the scripture, how they have issues with millions and billions. Actually, I think it was billions. And they always get the help and they always get the mercy extended to them. It happened during the Great Recession of 2008. Obama at the time was the president. He would stimulus packages to stimulate the economy, which in turn gave them millions, so that billions actually, to take care of the economy. But instead of turning around and helping the least of these among us, the 100 silvers, those who owned 100 silver, what they've been doing, and many of them, and some families that I know of, are still paying the consequence of that era. They continue to beat them up. What do you think about that idea? Like, do you think they are wicked, like the scripture said, wicked servants? How do you deal with wicked servants? Do you keep praying so that the master can come after them? I know I do.
Who are you asking?
Oh, either one of you. Anna, go ahead.
Well, it's interesting because, the president had decided on loan forgiveness, and that has been held up in court. probably never ever going to happen.
Yeah. Mhm.
This literally started on Friday when
Mhm.
Janet Yellen, said, okay, we need to, she sent out a whole memo, what was going on with the banking, and literally on Monday, those banks were closed. Moved very, very swiftly. But I think I knew this was coming because as I had learned earlier, the whole thing with the cryptocurrency, these banks were lending to the cryptocurrency. They were bailing out the crypto business of FTX. And when that company failed, it didn't just fail. It took down $10 billion worth of assets. And when these banks couldn't recover because there was nothing to recover, because as soon as the investors sold off their shares, there was nothing left. And they had nothing. It wasn't like they could go sell a house, to recover, collateral. There was no quote unquote collateral, because as Warren Buffett says, when you buy assets, these digital assets, you're hoping that someone else will come and buy them in the future for more money. But it's not like buying a house or a boat, there's really nothing underlying them. There's nothing, there's no collateral, there's no assets, you buy, McDonald's stock, which you realize McDonald's is selling burgers and that's how they're making money, but there's nothing like that.
Yeah, just like in 2008, the mortgage annuitization that was happening, converting mortgages
Yes,
into
security, yep.
securitizing of mortgages. And that really led to the collapse of the economy, the Great Recession, which they're the one who created the nightmare. But many folks on Main Street ended up paying a high price. I know people in my community who lost their lives because of what these, again, not me, not my word, but the wicked have done.
They actually, I'm sorry, I know Ms. Gabrielle needs to respond, but I just wanted to say one more thing. But they actually tightened banking and banking laws after that 2008. But then when Trump kind of gave them that loophole, they just went with it. So, and even Bernie had warned them, like, we're just waiting for our bank to fail, and not even like a few years later.
So I know Gabrielle and I, we met in an environment where we saw firsthand, right? Families who were impacted in ways that you couldn't imagine because of the criminal activities of those at the top of the pyramid. So, I mean, how do you forgive a situation like that when you've lost your family member, your mother, because she had to work 3 jobs and still couldn't keep that house, or you lost everything? I know a woman that I've been friends with, she had a property for 17 years. She lost that property, and now she ended up having to live in somebody's basement, and her children were all over the place. They're still trying to recuperate from that. You're talking about criminal activities that really impacted families, and that could only create so much rage. How do you forgive that? I know personally I've had to do some forgiving. How do you forgive that, Gabrielle?
Well, I don't think, I mean, our country has forgiveness for the rich. They get their banks got bailed out, and they get lots of subsidies and tax breaks, and we have no forgiveness for the poor and middle class. If you're a few months late paying your mortgage, insurance is more in the inner city. It's like, just, if there's no forgiveness for the poor, there's no loan forgiveness. I mean, people need to go to college to get a job, and it's just ridiculous. So I think we have to cultivate forgiveness in our hearts, but we can also fight for justice. And we need some student loan forgiveness. We need affordable housing. We need healthcare, affordable healthcare for everybody. We need
justice for everybody. I like that.
You can't always forgive and just let people take advantage of you. So we do have to fight back. So it's, I guess I always like to think of Martin Luther King as
Mhm.
the best model of that. You know, he promoted love and kindness, but he certainly wasn't rolling over and allowing, you know, segregation and all of that to happen.
Yeah. So you can still have a forgiving heart, like the scripture. As a believer, I have to cultivate a spirit of forgiveness, where I look at things the way perhaps Christ looks at things. You know, it's not, you're not wrestling against flesh and blood, but perhaps against principalities. So we are fighting against those things that we don't understand, and you have to learn how to forgive so that you can free yourself. Because you said you love MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., and I also love Nelson Mandela. And he
Yeah.
said forgiveness liberates the soul. It removes fear. That's why it's such a powerful weapon. So, I mean, what does that mean to you, Anna, when it's like liberates the soul? You know, it removes fear. Because he talks about later on in that speech that the only way he was able to move his country forward was through the process of forgiveness, because it's such a powerful weapon. So someone who dealt with so much during the crisis and still dealing today, how do you free your soul and your community?
Definitely interesting question, but I know in the context of Nelson Mandela, you know, he was trying to unify a very divided people, and it seems to be the story around the world, where, you know, now that, you know, we're more polarized than ever, you know, and even within the Christian community, you know, you have the radical white supremacist nationalists, white Christian nationalists. And then we saw this in Georgia during the election of Reverend Raphael Warnock, who is a Christian, says he's a Christian, and the white people who say they're Christians can't vote for him.
I know.
And you're thinking, wait, you really have an actual Christian who's a professing Christian, who is a like everything that would meet their check marks, but can't meet their check marks because he's a Black Christian, you know. So you have like these kind of the polarization that happens here. But I just want to go back to your question with the guy who owed 10,000, and then, you know, he sees his friend who owes him, you know, $10 or whatever, and, you know, he's like, give me my money, you know, you better have my money. You know,
I know.
I think with Christians, a lot of times I see this like how Christians behave. Like we're always kind of like, well, we're so good, and we, you know, we do so much good in the world. And then when we see other people who, you know, aren't doing as well, you know, we kind of don't have that mercy to say, hey, you know, like, you know, God has forgiven me, not just to forgive me, but that I can use that forgiveness for others who also need that forgiveness, you know, not just in terms of like sins, but in terms of the inequalities and the justice, all the things that happen in the world. Because, you know, Dr. King, when he was about to die, he's about to lead a march for the trash collectors who wanted to unionize, and most of them were Black. You know, his last speech was, you know, before he was supposed to go and help them, and he understood the economic injustice in this country, the growing inequality. And this was in the 60s, and it got worse in the 80s when Reagan showed up and gave trickle-down economics that never trickled down.
So in 2008.
Exactly. So it's like we're not fixing any of the problems. We're just putting bandages on big systemic problems in this country. And you can't just tell someone, go learn financial literacy if you have no finances to invest. You know, like Dr. King said, why integrate a counter when the people can't afford the food at the counter? You know, so it all works together. So not just, you know, we need, you know, just to sit somewhere or be on, and you see this all the time, you know, maybe they'll put a Black person on a board, you know, and or anything, but there's no real change in how things are done in this country because it's all symbolic. It's just like, well, and especially even Dr. King, you know, his holiday shows up and everybody loves Dr. King. That wasn't the case. No one wanted to hear him. And even today, like, you know, I was listening to NPR and they were saying how there's a lack of, I think all the newspapers are closing, which we know, but, you know, people who just can't make a living, telling the truth in journalism. And
Correct.
that's a problem because now people don't know what is true because there's so much bad information out there. And it's like people are just in their echo chambers and there's really nothing unifying people and saying, hey, like, we need to find a way to come together and solve problems, not just ignore them or say, they'll go away on their own, which they're not if we don't actually address them.
Yeah, we're talking about systemic oppression through economic injustice, but this month, of course, we just mentioned that again, it's Women History Month, and we've celebrated women. Last week, I talked about women who've impacted me, who've done great things, but we know disproportionately, we've talked about it, Gabrielle, that women have a hard time sometimes forgiving because they have been impacted or inflicted the most. So what are some of the discretions that you could think of that women have gone through that makes it very hard, but nevertheless they have to push through so that they can, again, what we said, the importance of forgiveness. Yeah.
Well, as we know, women still make significantly less money than men for the same work, and women have a disproportionate amount of childcare and housework to do, and often are also working outside of the home. Women have experienced a lot of sexual abuse and emotional abuse, and I think women sometimes mistreat each other. That's something we need to talk about more, how we don't respect and lift each other up as much as we should.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what I'm getting out of this whole conversation, and you said it so beautifully, Anna, about justice. Well, you need justice and forgiveness. You can't continually, decade after decade, undergo all of this injustice, cops killing Black men, and it just goes on and on and on, and you can't keep forgiving something if we don't fix the problem. So I think we need forgiveness and justice.
Correct. The challenges that we are facing, especially women. Now, you mentioned that sometimes women are the one inflicting pain or hurts on other women, because we all know that hurt people help hurt other people. If you are hurt, you're gonna go ahead and keep doing it. That's why, again, the idea of liberating your soul and also removes fear, because if you haven't removed all the fear that you are carrying because you're carrying unforgiveness, you are gonna go ahead and keep on doing the same thing. It's almost like it's like doing the same thing to others that has been done to you. So would you agree, Anna?
Most definitely, and it's very sad because you would think that when you're in a room and full of women, especially if you're in a company, like in a finance company, where there's like 25 women to 75 men.
Correct. One Black woman for
exactly.
Financial advisors. Yes.
Exactly. So it's so clear that you need to have strong relationships amongst people with shared experiences.
Correct.
But sadly, I think someone just wrote about this. I just read it the other day. It was like people want to be close to power.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll do anything to be close to power. So anything that I can show that, I might be better than you at, or I had worked as a teacher, and you would think teaching is a very collaborative type job. And some teachers wanted to be teacher of the year. So they were like backstabbing other teachers. And I'm like, look, we're a team. We should all be working towards the same goal. I don't care if I win an award. I'm not doing this because I need an award on my wall. It was just misaligned, like just people who are just misaligned with what really matters. And maybe it's an age thing. Maybe when you're older and you're like, what's most important here is like, are we giving these kids the services they need and deserve and doing our best to meet their needs?
Correct.
Or really is it just, now it's not about the group, it's not about the collective group, it's just about you. And so that kind of poisons, the relationship because you can't really work with someone who's just like, okay, I'm going to take all the credit, do none of the work, but take all the credit. You know, it just makes it like this
Yeah.
unnecessary competition when we're like, dude, we're all on the same team here. We should all have the same vision, the same mission. But it's, I mean, I'm not going to be, you know, Pollyanna and think that always happens, because it does not always happen.
Correct. Yeah, I had written here like stolen dreams. You go to a workplace and you feel like you are competent, you have the credentials, you have everything. And then, you know, I remember years ago I worked, my first banking job. I went there, once upon a time, I was like the studious of the studious, right? Because I had just left school. So I came to the job like I was at school because I knew I had learning to do. So I would take all the books, you know, at the time it wasn't computers. You would take books home to study all the products and services and all the regulations and everything. So I would do that as if I were in school, yeah, like I was like still in school. But yeah, this one woman, like going back again to something that you said, Gabriella, this one woman, at the time I felt like she was an older woman because she was 36 and I was 21. And this person made my life miserable. But you know, last week I said I was going to tell that story and I didn't get the chance to talk about it. But I remember at the same time too, I had other women in my life who were like so instrumental in guiding me and helping me and in empowering me. And I said to myself, I will never be the type of woman, older especially, that would treat a younger woman the way this woman's done to me. To the point where I literally had to leave that organization. And I think back now, many of the opportunities that I've lost professionally happened because I left an opportunity that I felt like I had already found the perfect environment to build a career. But because of her, again, wickedness, I couldn't stay. I had to leave. And the clients loved me. The people in the community loved me. I was even offered like so many different opportunities, but I couldn't stay. So yeah, you're right. But you know, learning how to forgive that situation, because I know some people who have gone through something like that, and then they never forgive that person who did it to them, and they continue to say to younger people, well, you know, when I first started, I went to hell, so you gotta go to hell too. I mean, how does that work, Gabrielle? If you don't forgive, you will continue to do the same thing. You'll become what you hate, correct?
I think so. I mean, I think in my life, I've been treated poorly by women more than men. And I think it's great that we're talking about it. Why do women treat each other badly? Or is it because like we're trained we're fighting for a man? You know, that's my man.
Not this, Gabrielle. Not in this lifetime. I said not in this lifetime.
No, but I mean, women do. They
Correct.
can be like real backstabbers, and it hurts to say that. But you know, some women always blame men for everything, and I'm like, no, we need to talk about this, about women, how we can treat each other better. So this is a good conversation.
So they project and they blame other women for, like, let's say they're in a relationship and it's not working so well because they're dealing with someone who doesn't have the character to commit to a single person. But instead of, you know, facing, you know, going to that man and facing an issue, saying like, listen, I realize that you're not the person for me. I realize that you have other options or you have other ideas. This is not for me. But they started comparing themselves with that other woman and trying to see, you know, am I prettier? Am I smarter? Do I have more to offer? And being very catty. And that really is the reason why there's such a division among women versus sisterhood and love, right? Right, Anna?
Yeah, and I think you have to be intentional as well. Like, it's not just going to happen, like, just because you put women in an organization. If there's a real support and leadership and, you know, women saying, hey, we need this, we need to collaborate, we need to support one another, it's not going to happen because, you know, and it's also, you know, when you join an organization, it's good to kind of observe, like, how do people actually interact? And, you know, is it just a dog-eat-dog type of environment where you just have to kill or be killed?
Correct. Correct.
Where a place where, you know, people are like, no, let's figure this out together. Like, how do we solve things here? Because not everyone has those skills. Those are, you know, very unique skills. And not everyone in an organization can say, hey, wait, you know, this has affected this person and they're, you know, a key member of our team. So we need to address this and move on. And not just, you know, sometimes when you speak up as a woman, it's kind of hard as well, because you have to watch how you say things, because if you're really direct, you know, you're too aggressive, you know.
You take up too much space. I've been told that.
Yeah, so it's like,
You take a lot of
okay.
space, Gabrielle. You take a lot of space. And then you have people who don't even know what the heck they're talking about. They're taking tons of space, but
Mhm.
nobody
But you can't. Yeah, you can't. You have to, you know, like, for example, I have issues all the time where I have to, even though I want to just be like, look, let's just do it this way. I can't say that. You know, I have to say, well, maybe we should, because, you know, like,
So that type of a situation, that the environment that has been created for women,
mhm.
and some of the challenges that we face in our relationships, personal relationships, and also business or even workplace, can make it very hard for us to forgive, and it can help make us be very resentful. The rage and the anger, right, that you will cultivate because again and again you're being undermined, right?
Exactly. But remember during the pandemic, sorry, if, you know, you were going to
No,
say
go ahead,
something.
go ahead.
Yeah. But you know, the countries that were led by women,
Mhm.
they had the best COVID responses.
Correct.
Okay. And then when the banking executives went to Congress after 2008, and they asked them, and there were no women present who came to Congress, and they had asked them, do you think a woman would ever lead your organization? And not a single one raised their hand. And these were the top banks in the United States.
Yeah, hence the reason that they're collapsing.
Exactly. We're not in the leadership, you know, maybe, you know, the way there's not even, maybe they're not even sharing with us the path forward, you know, it's like the secret organization, you know, the organization within the organization. So there's all these things that, you know, but if they actually invested in women and had women helping them to lead, they would be more successful. And even studies have said, if you have a diverse board, if you know, if diversity is really something you truly believe in, you're going to be at an advantage. It's a competitive advantage.
Yeah. So we have a lot to forgive, Gabrielle, right? A lot we have to forgive.
People of color have a whole lot to forgive.
Yeah. But we have to, because what does it look like when you refuse to forgive? What does it look like? Because again, you know, I love to talk to Anna because she has a contagious smile. But we've had conversation, and I've known Anna for like 15 years.
Oh, more than that.
And more than that. And we've seen ourselves, right? Through it all. We've seen it through it all. And we've gone through, I've personally gone through my ordeals. And you know, and I feel like for me, in order for me to become the person that I am today, I had to let go and let God, but also forgive. So, I mean, what does it look like when somebody refuses to forgive? Because again, Mandela is saying like it liberates the soul. How can you have a soul to really love and care for other people and care for community and just be alive and really experience life to its fullest? We're gonna have indiscretions and things done to us, right? How do you experience all the joy that life has to offer, even the financial blessings, the health, the spirit, if you when you refuse to forgive? So what does it look like when somebody refuses to forgive? Gabrielle.
Well, I know there have been times when I had a hard time forgiving, and I could make myself sick. I
Right.
had family issues, come from a divorced family. You know, you can make yourself sick, you know, high blood pressure, you can act out in anger and have an accident or hurt yourself or hurt somebody else. It's dangerous, you know, to have a lot of anger inside. It raises your blood pressure. You could have a stroke or a heart attack. Or you could, if you have a lot of anger, you could take it out on yourself by drinking or taking drugs. So it's, it's not easy to forgive, but if you to love yourself and care for yourself, it's really an act of self-love.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's more for you than even for the other person, because when you're carrying around all that anger, you just, you're harming your own health, you're harming everything. You might be harming your family,
Mhm.
your friends, and losing friends. People don't like to be around someone who's angry. They're gonna not want to hang out with you. So it's worth it, I'm a screenwriter, and I write a lot of stories, and I read stories. There's a lot of movies where the hero wants to get revenge on the bad guy or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think we need to write some new stories about the benefits of not taking revenge and
Yeah.
finding healthier ways to forgive, but also to fight for what's right.
But working as a collective and also that legacy. And I think that's where we would like to live in. And I'll give you the last word, Anna. Just like I think it also affects your legacy. And I know you have children. How can you really pass on, really love? We talked about the love matters a couple of weeks ago. The best gift you can give your children, I know for my mother's gone through a lot, but she's taught us how to love our neighbors and love people around us. And even don't even she's like, forget about what they did. Please move on. It's so important that we pass on a legacy that can be healthy, right? Especially for those who have children, or if you don't have kids, though, those who are watching you, around you, are watching to see. So why is being part of a collective? Because when you think you're not alone, other people have gone through the same thing together. You can come together and learn to forgive together, right? That legacy. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
For me, personally, I come from a culture where people don't forgive. Really? You hold on to grudges.
Are you talking about my culture?
No, my culture. Where you hold on to grudges forever. I mean,
I
like, let's
know.
say you have a party and someone didn't show up. Oh, you didn't show up. Oh, well, you have a party. I'm not going to your party.
Oh my God. I know.
It's big. I mean, you offend someone, and everything that could go wrong will. But I think I've learned to just say, okay, like, even in situations where I usually have to help people and give advice, it's like, okay, what really matters, stick to what really matters.
Mhm.
I know when I was going through my divorce, my sister was like, oh, you don't have to pay your bills. You don't need to do all this stuff. And, I said, no. If I have bad credit, I can't buy another house. This house, whatever we splitting it, is gone. But I need to make sure my house, my credit, and my, and I would have to, I had to read books. I didn't know about divorce and what that meant. So I'd read books, and it was like, okay, focus on this, focus on that. Like this, fight for what you really want, like what you really need. Don't let the other little distractions, and that's true for anything in life. Like if you let all the little distractions get to you, I think it was a runner, I think Joyner Kersey, she's like, if you kick every barking dog, you're not going to finish your race. Like, don't worry about all the distractions. Focus on what you really, really need to be successful. If like I had young kids, and I said, okay, I have to be a role model to them. I'm not perfect. I don't try to be, but okay, let me focus on what I need for myself, what they need for themselves, and I'll fight for that. Everything else is not, I can't do everything else. I'm not Superwoman, not gonna be Superwoman, but and then let me also cherish the relationships. I mean, I'm a very friendly person, but I do have only like a handful of people that I would call my friends, that I know I can depend on, and vice versa. Even though I have many, many associates and many people, because I'm always, I treat people the way I want to be treated. You can't for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I just say, okay, noted, like this person, I'm not gonna trust my pearls to them, because guess what they're gonna do with my pearls?
Trample it
taking
under their
it to
feet.
cake.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, like really knowing who the people are who you associate with, and
Mhm.
really knowing who really cares and who's, you know, who's just maybe there because whatever, for whatever reason. It's not because, you know, maybe they want something, you know, especially if you're a giver, you tend to attract people that are takers,
Right.
you know, but you realize, okay, if it's not reciprocal, if it's not okay, you know, I can do what you need today, but down the road, I need something from you and you're like unavailable and you can't help me. Then I realize, okay, this is not even a friendship. This is something that's convenient for you. So I would like living my life knowing like, okay, what's most important, what's priority. I would just literally wake up like, what do I absolutely have to do today? Maybe it's laundry, maybe it's like the simplest of things.
Correct. Yeah.
Like, knowing, okay, I have limited energy, I have limited time, but let me really do what's most important to my life, to the people I love. And you know what? Sometimes if you're so focused on like, you know, you kind of don't have time for the trivial stuff. You're like, okay. And then you also realize people are people. You know,
Mhm.
some people process things differently. Some people don't know how to address issues. Like I'm very direct, like Gabrielle, like, you know, I will tell you what I feel, you know, and think, and I'm okay with that. And if I feel okay, that person can't take what I'm saying, you know, then I realize, okay, let me give them space. They need space to process what they're going through. And maybe I need to come at them from another angle because they're not listening to me, or maybe someone else needs to address them. You know, like trying to realize like, okay, I can't fix everything and I can't fix everyone or even myself sometimes,
I know.
you
I know.
know, but that's not my goal. My goal is like, how do I just do what I absolutely have to do, and, you know, cultivate the good people that are in my life and don't worry about who left. You know, they left, God bless them. I don't need to chase them.
I know. You
Wanted
don't
give
need
my
to
life.
chase. Yeah, you
Exactly.
don't need to chase everybody. You know, we talked about forgiveness, why is it important to forgive, and we've talked about some of the really hard things that have happened to people, especially women. You just mentioned financial abuses. You know, you are in a relationship, you trust the person, and whether it's a friendship relationship, and they're just taking advantage of you. And those when you are betrayed by a friend or family member or relationship partner, it can be very hard to forgive, very, very hard to forgive. But you know, don't you want to be free? When you want to be free? And then Nelson Mandela, who spent what 27 plus years in prison just because he was fighting for justice, right? He lost years, his best years of his life, you know, behind bars. But he still came out saying like forgiveness liberates the soul. He wanted to be free, and it removes fear. In order for you to be free, in order for you to remove fear from your life, you have to cultivate forgiveness in your life. So it's very important. It's a powerful weapon, he says. So it's for you. It's for you. I think Gabrielle said it many times. We may have a hard time with it, but it's a powerful weapon. Use that weapon for yourself to liberate yourself and also to leave a legacy that will be amazing. So that you don't get hurt every time, or you don't hold on to grudges, you don't hold on to hurt and keep on hurting other people, because I do know hurt people will hurt other people. And again, going back to community and culture, you know, I'm part of a culture where so many people have been hurt with either infidelity, sexual, physical, mental abuse, or financial abuse, betrayal by friends or family members because of that. And they haven't learned how to forgive. And you can see it in your relationship with them. You're trying to build, they're trying to destroy, because they haven't learned to forgive. They're not free. They haven't removed fear out of their lives. So I will encourage you to do that today, because yes, on Let's Talk Money, we say everything encompasses money. And you cannot cultivate, you cannot generate, you cannot maximize your financial, your health, your spirit, and your legacy's potential if you continue to harbor unforgiveness in your life. Correct, ladies?
Yes,
Right
definitely.
on.
Yes, thank you so much for your time tonight. Please
Yeah.
like, share, and make a comment. Let your friends know that we are here on Wednesdays and we do share really pertinent information and something that you all can think about. Yeah, have this conversation this week with your children, have it with your spouse, have it with people that you care about. Why does forgiveness matter? It matters because it will change your life, it will change our community, it will change our world, and